Have you ever noticed that, as a rule, you grow more from experiences that are hard than you do from experiences that are easy? Wouldn't you say that's true? That you grow more in struggle than in ease? If I were to ask you, what are the 3 experiences in your life that forged you into the person you are, made you who you need to be in this world? Would those come off the list of easy things or hard things, challenging, struggling things? According to the first reading, it's very likely that all 3 of yours would come off the hard list, because Paul and Barnabas are saying very clearly something that I think I have tried to insulate myself from hearing. They said, it's all about persevering through struggle. In fact, their exact words are, it is necessary to go through many hardships to enter the kingdom of heaven. Which is interesting, because when I have hardships, I usually think it's a sign that I'm doing something wrong, that it shouldn't be like this. It should be easier. It should be more fun. But they're saying that struggles are necessary. Hardships are part of the plan, that is what strengthens us for the journey. Looking back, I realized that as a kid, all of my role models had struggles. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. My Baci, my Polish grandmother, had become a widow in her 50s. She had more years as a widow than she had married. And my other grandparents on the other side both went through cancer battles. And watching them, I made an assumption about life. The assumption was that if you go through hard times, it'll be terrible, but there will be an upside. And the upside is that you naturally, as a result, will become a deeper and a wiser person. You naturally will grow in your ability to handle things. You'll develop more courage and more fortitude. You'll become a more beautiful kind of person. You'll look more like a citizen of heaven. And only later in life did I realize that that is not inevitable. Not all hard times make people better. Some people, through the hard times, get bitter, not better. We had a funeral here on Thursday, number of funerals lately. This one was for a 93-year-old parishioner who had spent most of her life in Glens Falls, Barbara Jerry. She used to own the antique shop up on the Scroon River in Warrensburg. Very beautiful, sweet, bubbly person. A lot of people loved her. She had 6 kids that she raised right here. I learned, looking back at her life, that she had plenty of struggles. One of them, not the hardest, was that her husband was really good at his job. And that meant he got promoted quite often. But a promotion for him didn't usually mean down the hall. It meant to California or to Texas or somewhere else that's far-flung. And she had 6 kids. And so every time she moved, she lost all of her support. The kids were all out of their routine. Everything was hard. And her kids said, whenever Dad would tell us we were moving again, she would just say one thing. All right, just wherever it is that we're going, paint the kitchen yellow. Paint the kitchen yellow. As long as she had that, that would be her foothold. In 1979, her youngest was about to turn 20. And so to celebrate, he went out to visit 2 of his older sisters who lived in, of all places, Hawaii. While he was visiting them, just a couple of days before his birthday, he was in a horrific motorcycle accident. And he wound up being in a coma for 3 months. Barbara got out there as fast as she could, and needless to say, her life changed completely. Those 3 months, she sat by his bedside day and night, and then for the rest of her life, she and her youngest, Robbie, were partners, sidekicks. She took care of him all of those years. During his illness in Hawaii, he went through so much. While he was in the coma, he got pneumonia, and then later he got meningitis. And the meningitis attacked his hearing, and he went deaf. Her kids said, "You would not believe how our mother handled that. We're not going to tell you it was easy. We're not going to tell you she always made it look like it was a piece of cake. But she was always just so grateful." There were some miracles that happened that maybe other people would have missed, like the fact that an aunt through marriage, Sister Jane, was actually a nun who had been a superior of a convent of, in all places, Honolulu. And so, of all the places where her son could be in a coma, she was in a place where she could stay in a guest house on the grounds and go somewhere to clean up in between sitting vigil by his bedside. Her kids said that the thing she said the most was, "God is answering our prayers. Praise God." She did not allow it to make her bitter. I asked specifically, "Did your mom ever get bitter about this? How did she overcome the bitterness?" And they said, whenever we would bring that up, she would say, "We have to be grateful that we are able to take care of Robbie." It's interesting for all of us to consider where bitterness touches our lives. I once saw a bumper sticker on a car that caught my attention, and I've never forgotten it. It said, "Life is a school. Love is the lesson." Isn't that just the truth? What else is there to learn in this world but love? What else could our challenges be for? What would the point be if not to love? Everything that happens is an invitation to love more. Jesus says it in the gospel today. "I'm giving you a commandment that's a universal commandment for every moment. Love one another. Bring love to the situation, whatever it is." There is never a situation that cannot have love applied to it. One of the realizations that's so painful for humans, but is a reckoning we have to have, is that no one has ever been able to make not happen something that's already happened. If something's already happened, there's not one of us that can make it not happen. It's impossible. And so, if we see the things that we face as invitations to bring love to the situation, perhaps we can recognize that it's up to us not to let anything, even an accident like the one Barbara Jerry went through, to make us more brittle or more fragile, but to allow everything to make us stronger and more noble. If you think about it, we can't control the hardships that are going to face us. So it's already hard enough. But if we let them make us bitter, it becomes a double tragedy. Now it's both. Now we've had the misfortune and we've lost our virtue. We're the kind of person that people want to avoid. Bitterness is the signal that we need a tutor in love school. Bitterness is the signal. It's never the goal. It's an ingredient that doesn't belong in any recipe. Bitterness is not what we're aiming at. Life is a school where love is the lesson. So this week we're being given a challenge in Love School to see if we can locate inside of ourselves if there is any bitterness. And if there is, where it is. And if we can locate where it is, maybe we can ask ourselves, was that bitterness always there? Was I born with that? Or did it come about after the accident? Or when the injury happened? Is the bitterness from the divorce or from when I lost that job? Is it from when that person betrayed me or that enemy tried to undo me? Whatever that experience was, the lesson we were meant to learn was not bitterness. Jesus says, I tell you to love one another. And bitterness can't undo a single thing. We can't, through our bitterness, make something not happen that has already happened. So let us ask ourselves what we can do with those hardships we could name to see if we can allow them to make us more noble, give us a stronger spirit, invite us to love more or with more intention. Because Paul says these hardships are a necessary preparation for heaven. Because life is a school with a hard curriculum, and the lesson is always love.